Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 13th episode of the Flyed Up podcast. And we have a special guest for you guys tonight after that amazing win against the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. 3-2 win in a shootout. That game was just spectacular. I am your host, Amadeo Gracia, along with my partner, Chris Mayer. And like I said, we have a very special guest. Former 97.5 The Fanatic host and host of the Stick to Hockey podcast, Jason Myrtetus. Jason, how are you doing today?
What's going on, boys? Am I
And
breaking the cherry on any guests on this podcast, huh?
Yeah. First guest of our podcast. It's a very special.
Quite the honor, Jase.
Well, congratulations on losing your virginity. Anytime you give up power on your show to have somebody else on, it's like giving them the keys to your Maserati and watch them crash it right into a wall.
So, Jason, just firsthand, what are your thoughts on the game today? Just that game was spectacular.
Well, yeah, it was a good hockey game, and it was well goaltended at both ends. Anderson and Elliott were tremendous in the game. And the thing is, these two teams played last Saturday and had an 11-round, pretty epic shootout. And it went the other way. It went Toronto's way last week, and then to come back this week and get another kick at the can and, get it to the shootout again, which was crazy with Elliott making 7 saves in the overtime. But then to come away with the win and the way they did it tonight, Anderson was so chill in that shootout last week. His reads were just great, and he was just calm and was never biting on any of the first moves. Elliott was the same way, but he just looked unbeatable in the shootout last week, and he only got 1 goal and 11 shots last week. And then to come in tonight and score 2 out of 3, and the way they did it was impressive to me because Giroux just came in like with a wheelbarrow next to him with his balls in it and just blasted a slap shot between the hash marks. And then Couturier just completely undressed him. So it's an impressive win, and they're on an impressive run right now. And sometimes you look at like a good run of games and they're 4-0-1 in their last 5, and you go, all right, yeah, they're 4-0-1, but who'd they play? I mean, do they play Ottawa? Did you get Chicago in there or Detroit? No, they beat some really good teams this week. When you look at that, they got a point out of that game last week against Toronto. Then Tuesday night, you beat the Canes, and it's just a good week of hockey for them. And they look like they're really starting to pick up the Alain Vigneault system, and I think that's a big difference.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And this is a stretch of they in their past few games since the game against New Jersey Devils. This is a stretch of like a possible 9 out of 10 points so far. So this is a really good stretch here by the Flyers, and like you said, they're beating really good competition teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Hurricanes, the Montreal Canadiens, and like you said, the Flyers look like they're getting more and more comfortable with this system with Alain Vigneault. And Chris, I want to hear your opinions on this stretch by the Flyers right now. What do you see them improving on?
Well, I mean, these last few games, just like Jase, just like you said, Amadeo, like you said, how they've beaten the better teams. Some games they probably shouldn't have won. That Carolina game, they struggled a little bit in the first 2 periods, came out in the third, continued that third period effort in Carolina, and then played a full 60 minutes against Montreal, won that game, and then tonight as well. Honestly, I think one of the biggest things that they've improved on was their 5-on-5 play. It's a majority of the season, it looked like it was just the power play was kind of getting them by a little bit in the first few games, and it was kind of taking them a little bit more time to score. And now it's starting to pick it up where it looks like, they're playing better 5-on-5. They're getting more chances 5-on-5, and they're capitalizing on them 5-on-5 as well. It's not the whole, quote unquote, second unit getting the points on the power play. And just like you said, Jace, the goaltending has been great. Elliott, he's been phenomenal in all the games he's played. He looked a little shaky in that game against Columbus where they came back and won, but besides that, he's been pretty good. And Hart had a little bit of a shaky stint there, and then he came out of that, and he's looked very well, just like he did in the first 2 games of the season. So it's going to be a tough one tomorrow night, though, against Boston.
Oh, definitely. That's going to be a very hard battle. Boston, coming off of a loss against the Detroit Red Wings, they're definitely going to be hungry back at home in TD Garden. So, Jason, what do you think is going to be the toughest matchup tomorrow for the Flyers against this dynamic Boston Bruins team?
Well, I mean, the Couturier line you would think is most likely going to get that Bergeron line and Pasternak's just a nightmare to deal with right now. I mean, he's just scoring all over the place, and he gets so much space out there because of the guys that he plays with, and he's just such a dynamic player who's just like now really, he's been really good in prior seasons, but he's an absolute primo player now. Like he's a cream of the crop guy, elite player in the league. And when you play with those guys, guys like Bergeron, he's so smart. And to me, Bergeron is like the perfect hockey player. He doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but he does everything extremely well. You know what I mean? So like and it's the little things. It's faceoffs, being in the right spots in the D zone, being that center that can play the full 200 feet of the ice and play below his own goal line and below the opposition goal line. So he wins board battles. He does all those little things right, but then he also makes dynamic plays. And what he does the best, I think, is he makes players around him much better. And look at Pastrnak and look at Marchand. And when you look at that line's probably the best line in hockey over the last 3 years. Now it's the only line that they've had, but that line's led the way for them to get to a cup final and be incredibly successful. So that's the biggest thing to deal with when you're dealing with Boston. It's certainly that line, and Pastrnak in particular right now.
Yeah, when you're talking about David Pastrnak, in 16 games this season, he has 30 points, and it's barely been a month and a half into the regular season. That's just mind-blowing right now. And also going on that same line, Brad Marchand with 28 points. Just like the way those three play together, it's just like you said, they have been and are the best line in the NHL currently and have been for the past few seasons.
Yeah, they complement each other perfect. Like Marchand's such a bastard,
Mm-hmm.
And he's such a prick on the ice, but by him being like a total dickhead all the time, he opens up space and gets in guys' heads, and then the workman-like attitude of a guy like Bergeron, and then the dynamic scorer like Pastrnak. It's like the perfect line. So and don't get confused by Marchand either. He's a hell of a player,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that because
he's good.
Yeah, because Marchand, as much as I hate him, he's a very good hockey player.
Oh yeah, he's in the right spot
quick,
all the time.
He's a great stick handler. He's a very good shot. I think he had 4 points the other night against Pittsburgh when they came back. Him and Pastrnak have been the only two guys that have really done a lot on that line. But Bergeron only has 17 points. But like it's funny because if you go by stats wise, it doesn't look like they play on the same line with Bergeron having only 17, and then Pastrnak with what did you say, 30, and Marchand having around that?
Yeah, 15 goals and
yeah. It's crazy, but to me, I think Bergeron's better in the defensive zone.
I mean, he's a top 5 in the defensive zone of anybody in the league.
Right.
Forward wise, yeah.
How do you think they're going to do against the goaltending versus Boston?
Well, I'm assuming that Rask is going to get to go.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to be Rask.
I think I saw like before this game. I'm not sure if this is actually true, but I think Halak was actually confirmed to be the starter for tomorrow.
Oh, is he? Okay. Either way. I mean, both. They're a team that I look at and I go, there's no drop off between 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
On any, because I think Halak is really good, and he has the ability to absolutely steal games, kind of like Elliott did tonight as a tandem or backup goalie, if you will, whatever you want to call it. So no matter which guy it is, it's real simple against goalies of that caliber. I mean, you're going to have to disrupt the hell out of them because you can't just shoot pucks at them. They're going to stop everything. It's like Freddie Anderson tonight. I mean, Phil Myers got that first goal of the game, but he was in the perfect high danger scoring area moving in, and Anderson did have to worry about other people around him for him to score that goal. So you're going to, against those guys, you're going to have to put bodies, and it sounds cliche. You're going to have to put bodies and pucks to the net, but I think it's like 84% of the goals in the NHL are scored within 5 feet of the net. So that's where you're going to have to go.
Yeah. And just the past few games I feel like the Flyers need to get that power play going even more. It just feels like the past few games, it feels like they're not getting into the zone properly, or they're just like tossing the puck in without getting properly set up. And also I think like to start off a power play, you got to win the faceoff. And the Flyers the past few games just really haven't been, I would say, dominating the faceoff circle, because that can also be attributed.
That's
Yeah, that's
Couturier, yeah.
also contributed to Couturier not playing as many faceoffs with his injury, though. And,
Right.
and it's also Provorov on the power play, is especially tonight. Provorov did not look his sharpest in like the past few games on the power play. Provorov has been bobbling the puck on that
God,
blue line.
I would get that guy a new stick or something. I don't know. I think he uses a true stick. I'd get him a CCM, and be like, dude, whatever's going on with this stick with you, I don't know if it's too long, but he does. He has these battles with the puck. And you can say, well, it was bad ice, and there was bad ice at the end of the game tonight. But there's been too many times where he does seem to have possession and stick handling issues. And I don't know what it's caused from. His skating is so elite, but sometimes he just does fumble it, and it drives you crazy.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, I don't know if it's a case of him trying to do way too much with the puck.
It's kind of the same thing with Gostisbehere. Like, I always thought he just tried to do too much because he had the one season where he was great on the power play, and then after that, he wanted to do every little thing to try to be that great offensive player, and he just could never continue with it. And then he would try to force it when he knew like it wasn't going to work. And like, to go back with Provorov, he did have. I mean, from tonight's game, besides that, I think he's looked okay on the power play. I mean, he had one pretty solid game on the power play, and that was against the Leafs last week when he had that goal and the assist on Drew's goal.
Yeah, it does feel a little clumsy still. I mean, they had 6 power plays the other night. They didn't get a goal, but on 4 of those power plays, they were excellent on those power plays. It was just great goaltending by Carey Price.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because majority of the year it's been the first unit getting a lot of chances, but the second unit has been cashing in.
Yeah, and don't forget too, the second unit's also getting the second set of penalty killers too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, like I know people want to kind of go crazy about the second unit, and it's great to have balance when you can throw 2 units out there. I think the reason why they're successful though is because the units are so different.
Right.
The last couple of years, it looked like, the first power play unit, and it was so predictable. It was okay. Wayne Simmons net front side of the net, Drew left half wall, Gostisbehere in the middle. We'll just try and throw it back to him for the one-time blast. And he'll bomb it, probably shoot wide, or we're going to go down low to Simmons, and he's going to try that spin to the net. And it just got so predictable. Yeah. And then they would try that cross ice pass to Voracek for the one timer, and that wasn't working.
You think
but now you see so much variance in their power play, and I think it keeps teams on their heels big time.
Right. You think that's any reason why you don't maybe see that they go to Van Riemsdyk more down low?
To me, he's a great net front guy because he's got great hands in tight.
Right.
But he's a different net front guy than Simmons was. Yeah. Simmons was there to create space. Yeah. He's there more for tips and rebounds.
Yeah. Simmons would just try to put his ass in the goalie's face and take up as much of his eyesight that he could. And majority of Drew and Gostisbehere, a lot of them goals were because of the screens that Simmons put in front.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it.
And just like going off of your point, like saying when the power play was like just over the past few years, like being insanely predictable, I also just felt like the power play was just insanely top heavy. It just felt they always like relied on that same line of Drew, Voracek, Gostisbehere, and Simmons on that. Then it's just basically a unit of nobodies on the second one. But it does feel like this year there's actually like more of a variety on each unit. You got the same good unit with Drew, Voracek, and you can switch a defenseman here and there. It's like it's been Gostisbehere sometimes this season. It's been Provorov sometimes. And then you get the second unit. You got Konechny, who has been electric on the power play. Lindblom, who has been finding the back of the net consistently this season. Sean Couturier. Then you can also throw in a guy like Matt Niskanen, who has honestly been a big surprise this season and has been one of our best defensemen.
Yeah, and Farabee's been a guy that's on the power play too, and Kevin Hayes. So, yeah, I mean, you got all when you have that's the thing. Like people went bananas when they signed Kevin Hayes, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, look, I get it. I didn't want to pay that kind of money, for Kevin Hayes and the productivity. I didn't want to, but and he hasn't been a point guy yet for this team. But I think he's been really good. Yeah. I think what he does 5-on-5 defensively and what he does on the penalty kill, and those elements of his game, and he is a bastard with the puck. Like he protects it like an NBA center or like a post-up move.
Yeah, he reminds me of Voracek in the old days when he would protect it.
Yeah, that big Czechoslovakian ass of Voracek. He used to do the same thing. Yeah, he's more of a like kind of a scat guy around the outside now than he was. But yeah, to me. But you go out and you pay that money, and what does it do? It changes your whole team because it changes
Exactly.
the depth on your team.
And
It
another
slots
reason,
everybody, and then you have Nolan Patrick right now.
right?
So
Mhm.
And I
that's
think
a whole
another
that's a
reason
whole other
why
episode.
all that money, yeah, really. I think that whole like the way that the way that they signed Hayes, I think it makes sense anyways, because if you look at their RFAs and UFAs of this upcoming season, I think the top four are Patrick, Lindblom, Pitlick, and Elliott. And Patrick, who honestly is not going to get a lot of money because he hasn't really played. Lindblom, he's the only one that's worrying me a little bit because of his point production. He's got 8 goals in 16 games, and last year it took him 57 games to get 8 goals. He had 17 last year. So it's like, but then again, it's like, and then you have Pitlick. They may not sign him. And Elliott, because Pitlick's at $1 million, and Elliott, he's at $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, Elliott's at that point now where, I had a good conversation with him after the first home preseason game. I like him a lot. And I will tell you that when he signed here a couple of years ago, I got a message from a guy in Calgary that I know and said, good luck. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, he's a surly dude. He's a pain in the ass. He did not have a good experience in Calgary. Just had a kid when he got there. But I have found Elliott to be great. And I have a really good relationship with him. I can talk to him a lot. And I asked him, because it was looking like Cam Talbot was the obvious guy coming back. So I said to him, how did it happen? You ended up back here. He goes, it happened really quick. It's just the way things played out. They came to me and he's like, dude, I'm 33. I know where I am in my career. I've had core injuries. I can't carry the mail for 58 games anymore. But he recognizes that I can come in and he can, and I saw it at the end of last year. I saw the mentor that he was to a guy like Hart to show him how to work every day at practice, to show him how to be a pro, how to prepare. And Elliott knows, like there's guys like Steve Mason who go, oh, I lost my starting job and I'm a free agent. I'm only signing a contract if I'm going to be a starter. And what happened? He's out of the league.
Right. He's in the AHL, isn't he?
No, I don't think he plays anymore.
He's out. Nobody's
He's out of the league. Like
he's done.
He's playing in a beer league somewhere, right?
Wow.
And
because a while ago, I thought he was on
going to get paid to be a backup.
Yeah, a while ago I thought he was on. He on Winnipeg's AHL team like 2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago he was. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know what's his face is on that team. Ryan White. He's on the Manitoba Moose.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
but Elliott knows, like, hey, I can transition to this stage of my career, play less, be the guy that helps out the younger goalie, be the mentor, let these guys apprentice under him, and I'll get paid $2.5 a year, and he could still go in and play. I'll get paid $2.5 a year, and I can do that for 5 more years.
Right.
These guys would rather more term all the time than money.
Yeah, exactly.
Stay in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, this is honestly the way Brian Elliott has been. I know when he first signed here, there were a lot of moments when he would carry the team on his back, but I feel like the play of Brian Elliott right now, this is the best that he has looked in a Flyers uniform since signing him 2 years ago.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, when he first got here, I think he was just as good. It's just the team around him wasn't as good defensively. Yeah. But this is certainly since that March when he had the core surgery and then came back way too early. Mm-hmm. And then he had last year. Last year he would tell me breaking down the scar tissue of that core injury from the surgeries, and that was just brutally painful. Yeah. This summer he didn't have to rehab at all. It was all training for a season. Wow. And that makes a huge difference for any professional athlete, in particular a goalie.
Yeah, well, goalie, they're the hardest position on the ice, and like another thing is like if you look at the way that Elliott started when he came here, it was just like you said, how he kind of carried the team on his back a little bit. And if you look at the defense at the time, it wasn't like they still had McDonald, they still had Gudis, Brandon Manning was still on the team. Now you're bringing guys like, I know, Niskanen and Braun and Sanheim has played to his full potential. The only thing is that kind of stinks about the defense right now is Sam Warren.
Oh. You got to feel bad for him. That's all you just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he's a really good kid. Right. Not a kid anymore. Jesus, he was drafted in like 83.
That's what
2013 actually. Yeah, but I never believed. Maybe 2 years into it, I didn't. from what I saw in his game and where I saw the game going, I didn't think he was an NHL top 6 D-man anyway.
Yeah, because
I'd be very vocal about it. Yeah.
Because he was one of them big guys, the fight, the hit. And as you said, like the 15 draft was the draft to get the top pick. Marner, McDavid, Eichel, Strome, Werenski. There's just so many guys I can't name off the top of my head that was the draft to have the number 1 pick. And it's just like the way with Morin was like with the way that they developed their defense, the way Hextall did it was like it was Sanheim in 14. Then it was Hag, which I still don't agree with. Then you had Morin, and then it was Provorov, and then that continued on and on.
Morin was in 13.
Yeah, Morin was a Holmgren pick.
Yeah, Provorov was actually in the draft for
the McDavid draft.
Yeah.
So, and that was also, I guess, the Konechny draft, right?
Yeah, that was because they traded up
draft.
for a Konechny.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame about Sam, but the game I think has just changed too much speed, and he's a good straight line skater, but in order to play in today's game, you got to turn your hips, and I just see too many hooking penalties because guys blowing by him. Yeah. Not to say big guys can't play. I mean, look at Colton Parayko. Chara still. There's some big guys that can do it.
Yeah, right? Chara, 40+ years old, and he's still playing in the top pair in Boston
with like half a face.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So I want to also talking about this topic of the young guys. Sadly, the whole thing with Morin going on. I just hope the speedy recovery for him. And it's just sadly, it's just that same ACL that he's tore in that same exact leg where he tore it a couple of years ago. It's just you could only hope a speedy recovery for him. But going off of other rookies right now, Joel Farabee, since being called up, he's just this kid looks insanely legit. The way the energy that he brings, especially being on that top line with JVR and Giroux, he just looks. Because I know we've had a lot of picks where we've hyped them up so much and they come up and they don't, I guess, exceed expectations to what we expect. But right now, Joel Farabee, the way he is playing right now, he seems to be coming to those expectations that when we drafted him a year and a half ago. He looks insanely legit, and I love the way he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things with him, and I mentioned on my podcast yesterday, on the Stick to Hockey podcast, that I thought the way he's playing right now, he's their 4th best forward. I mean, that is a huge statement. But, and it's not because of points, but it's because of what he does and all the little things. There's a couple examples that I'll bring up. His hockey IQ is off the charts. He's always on the right side of the puck in the defensive zone. He's always between the puck and the goalie, which is. And board battles and on the half wall and stuff are insanely important. I mean, we preach that to squirts and mites, and coaching. And then that's one thing. He is incredible at reading a play to break up a play. And he's incredibly patient in letting plays develop. A lot of times young guys, they get there, they just want to turn on the jetpack, go nuts, and then they skate themselves out of position. He doesn't do that. He finds the soft spots and goes to those soft spots, because another thing we always say in coaching, I heard my entire life growing up, who's the most dangerous guy? The most dangerous guy is always the guy without the puck. You would think it's the guy with the puck, but it's actually the guy without the puck, because he can put himself in a position to affect everything. And that's what Farabee does. He goes to areas where he commands attention when he doesn't have the puck, and it makes him dangerous because you have to cover him. And then it makes the puck more dangerous, whoever's got it. So his hockey IQ is so high, and he's so impressive. And it's weird because he doesn't look like he's moving fast sometimes, but he is. He's got a strange stride that's very deceptive, I think.
Right. And another thing is, I want to go off how you said he's very good, into his defensive end and his IQ. That goal that he scored against Carolina started with the defensive play he made in the zone to break up that pass that was going right to the guy in front. He tipped it in the corner, went out into the neutral zone, Giroux batted it over to him, and then he took it to the net and scored. But it's just even when he doesn't, even when he was on the third line with Hayes, just like you said, he was great in the defensive zone.
Yep.
And
Vigneault said he doesn't mind putting him out there in any situation. That's high praise.
Right. And especially because the wingers aren't necessarily good at defense. Konechny, he's not that great at defense. Van Riemsdyk, he's not great at defense. I honestly do think that Farabee is one of our best defensive wingers. There aren't because a winger isn't a I guess a high defensive position because it's kind of just like more wingers now play lower in the zone than usual. You know what I mean? Like they try to.
Yep.
Like,
well, he's a center playing wing. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and wingers really don't have that much responsibility when it comes defensively. It's usually the center that has majority of the responsibility when it comes to the defensive end.
Right. The winger's kind of just there to help them.
Yep. Support the pucks and support the middle of the ice.
Right.
And just going off like you said with like his insane hockey IQ and just like it's not just the points that he's doing right now. It's like the little things that he's doing. But I feel like over time, as he starts to get more and more comfortable in the NHL, even though he looks insanely comfortable right now, the points are going to come. I feel like I wouldn't say like in the next few games, but there's going to be a stretch this season where he just consistently either gets assists or finds the back of the net. And I feel like that's eventually going to happen with this kid.
Yeah. I mean, I think he is a guy that can get up to like 40 points, 42 points in his rookie year, which at his age at 20 is pretty good.
Right.
I completely agree. And just like off of Farabee, and like you said, he was the fourth best forward. Like, who would you say has been the Flyers' number one player right now?
Oh, it's Konechny.
Yeah.
It's he. I said as soon as they hired Vigneault to be the coach, I was like, oh man, this is brilliant for Travis Konechny, because you went from with Dave Hackstall the last bunch of years, and even Scott Gordon, a 1-3-1 fork check, which is very passive offensively. You know, so you're running a 1-3-1, which doesn't benefit his game, transition and speed. So you move to this 1-2-2 forecheck that is designed by Vigneault to transition and stress an opponent nonstop. So as soon as you lose possession, you're stressed. There's no regrouping. It's very little regroup. It's get the puck, go right at him, and go at him, stretching the ice up the walls on the outside. And if you look at Konechny's game, that is his game to a T. And as soon as I saw that he was good, boom, that is a perfect player for him. And he has flourished in it. He gets it because he skates his ass off. So to me, he's been their best offensive player since they dropped the puck in Prague. Not even close.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And just the way he's been playing, like there still have been no spurts where he probably gets those chances and he decides to pass it off instead of like take the shot. There's been some instances in the past few games, especially like in tonight's game against Toronto. I think there was like chances where he would have a 2-on-1 and he would decide to pass the puck rather than to like take the shot on net, because he has an electric shot. He can absolutely snipe the puck. But like,
that's him also knowing that Freddie Anderson's in that net.
Yeah, that's also a thing.
Yeah, to score in that league, they see the data. I don't know if you guys ever have seen the website ClearSight Analytics. It's there's a guy that used to play in the league, Steve Valiquette. He was a goalie for the Rangers, and he's a broadcaster now too. But he developed. He got so tired of goalies being judged on goals against average and on save percentage because he thought it was stupid, and it is kind of if you think about it. Like
I'm just like that, but with plus minus for defensemen.
Oh yeah, that's the dumbest thing in the world.
I hate
team
it.
Stat.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah,
because
you can't read the stat line and determine
you can
that.
literally get on the ice and they score, and you're in the neutral zone still, and you get a minus.
And it's just the same as a plus.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You can get a plus for sitting back there picking your nose.
Basically.
You had nothing to do with it.
Exactly.
Think if goaltenders were charged for plus minus, how many would that change for every game?
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's called goal differential. It's a real simple game. You just score more than your opponent and you win. But what Steve did was he developed all this data, and he took every shot over 5 seasons of hockey and analyzed them and every goal. And he developed a fictional line from the middle of the net to the blue line, right down the middle of the ice. And it's now called the slot line. It was called like something else before, like the Hershey Highway or something, I forget. And it's determined that in the offensive zone, when the puck crosses the slot line, the chances of scoring go up like 78%.
Wow.
And you go, well, why is that? because when the puck crosses that slot line, so many decisions have to be made on the ice. Not only that, but the goalie's not on a post or in the middle of his net to reset his net when it comes across the slot. So if you have a cross ice pass at dot to dot, everything changes. The read for the goalie changes, the body angles, the one-timer, and also your feel of where your net is, coupled with the fact that every time it crosses the slot line, 5 other players on the other team have to make a decision. And when 5 players have to make a decision, there's 5 areas or 5 opportunities for a mistake. And that's how goals are scored. So he developed a stat called GSAA, goal saved above average. And that's really the stat to look at.
Yeah, that's some interesting stuff. And honestly, I've never even heard of that website until you brought it up this second. So like,
yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, because
it's insane stuff. Like I went down the rabbit hole a couple of years ago into it.
How does he even do that?
You look at every goal that's scored, and he tracks it. What did it go across the slot line? And he grades the scoring chances. So he does even more. He grades the scoring chances. Like basically, his philosophy is that all goals or all scoring chances are not created equal. Like if you have a shot from the point and there's no traffic, I call it the Radko Gudas. He would just throw it at the net, no traffic. You're just playing catch like you're on the beach with a beach ball with your buddy, and it's the goalie's just going to glove it, and it's easy.
Right.
That should not be treated as the same as and help grade you as a one-timer across the slot line from Nicholas Backstrom to Alexander Ovechkin on a power play.
Oh,
right.
That should not be graded the same. It's not the same, and hence why
that one-timer general is just impossible to stop. I feel bad for any goaltender that has to face that every night.
You have to hope it hits you.
Really.
And you get yourself in the right position. It doesn't matter. He's going to put it where he wants it. So
right, definitely. It's going to stink if you stop it, but like
oh man, that thing's heavy. Yeah.
He's literally scored that shot in just about every place. 5-hole, low glove, high glove, blocker side, short side, upstairs, bar down. I mean, it's just insane.
He shoots it wherever you're not going to be able to get it.
Right.
And he has that kind of control over it. It's unbelievable.
Like to me, as much as people rave about Ovechkin, Carlson is just as good as a shot.
Yeah, it's different, but yeah. I mean, he can bomb it from the point. He's more like Pronger.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean like exact same, but at least you got the point. Like
yeah, he can bomb it.
Right. And I think it also changes Ovechkin's angle too. Mm-hmm. He's a right-hand shot like that, and he always moves in real close. Carlson's kind of got to wait at the point. And like what I've never understood about guys on the penalty kill with the Ovechkin is you always notice the guy, if you're looking at the rink from the behind the net up, it would be the guy on the right. He always moves in and leaves Ovechkin wide open every single time.
Yeah, because that's the thing too, because you have to respect the other guys. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But
like Backstrom can bury, Oshie can bury, Carlson can bury. They all can, so it's like
I've always just wanted the Flyers to have one guy stay on Ovechkin the whole time, and then the others play a 4-on-3.
Yeah, that would make it even more dangerous because just every single person on that Capitals power play can literally put the puck in the net.
Exactly.
It's not even funny.
It's vicious. And Ovechkin won't leave the ice. He'll stay out there the full 2 minutes.
Definitely. And if
they don't even have a second unit because that unit literally takes up the whole power play.
Yep. Yeah.
I'd be afraid to be the guy that's like singled out to like, hey, stay on Ovechkin. You have to block that shot. I'd be afraid to be that guy.
It's funny because McDonald actually was that guy, and he was actually pretty good at it. One thing he was good at, he was great at blocking shots.
Was that with the Flyers or when he was that guy?
Wow. Well, he was that prior too. I mean, he led the league in block shots 2 years in a row with the Islanders, and then I think 1 year with the Flyers.
His whole career, the one thing he was consistent was blocking shots. That's the one thing you can give him credit for.
Yeah, that's really like the only thing Hag does now: block shots and hits.
In practice.
In practice. How many games has it even been since Haig has been in the lineup? Like at least 5, I think.
Yeah, well, since Myers has been up, they look way better defensively too.
Definitely. And yet, speaking of Phil Myers, like, what are your he's scored in back-to-back games so far in the game tonight, in the game against Montreal. Like, what have you liked from Phil Myers so far since being called up?
What haven't I liked? I mean, he's just. I think he is so good. I think he just skates really well. I mean, for how big he is, I mean, he's a 218-pound guy.
Right.
He's 6'5". He skates so good, and he recovers so fast. I mean, to me, he's the definition of a big defender in today's game because he's such a good skater. The fact that he wasn't drafted is like stunning to me. I've talked to Craig Button about him because Craig raved about him, and years ago this was right when the Flyers signed him. And God, he's so good. I think that I think he could end up being the best defenseman on this team.
He kind of reminds me of a younger Justin Braun.
Yeah, well, he's a better skater than Braun. Like, he skate faster. I mean, Braun's like watching Brad Marsh now, but and I mean Brad Marsh now. Like, Marshy was slow back in his day. You should see him now. But no, Braun's a good veteran defenseman. But yeah, I think he's going to end up being so good, and he's got offensive elements to his game too. He really learned when to activate into the offensive zone. But what he learned was the clock in his head was to go, okay, I'm a defenseman. I got to get back and not just stay there all day, because at lower levels, he would activate and just dominate the play, and he could track anything down. At the NHL, he can't. So I think he's learning the game really well. Look, the only reason I think he was sent down too is because he didn't have to clear waivers to start the season, and he didn't have a great camp. So to send him down, get him a little confidence to come back up, and I don't think he's going anywhere ever again. I think he's that good. I don't think he's ever a scratch. I think he's got potential to be a great defender.
I completely agree with you 100%. And it's just like what you said. I don't get how this kid went undrafted. It's just like beyond me. And like we have another guy down with the Calgary Hitmen, Zamula. Like the way that kid looks down in Calgary, even though we don't know what it's going to showcase in the NHL or AHL. But it's just like we have a second possible like great defenseman that we found undrafted. I don't get how those guys go undrafted. It's just beyond me.
Think about that. Zamula, you mentioned, and you got Phil Myers, and then you also got Cam York that you did draft. So I mean, they got more D help on the way, and it's high end D help for a team. I mean, look, Niskin and Braun are up there, but the replacements are there and in the pipeline. I think Cam York's gonna be great. Zamula, again, we'll see when he gets to the NHL, but it's weird. Like, some kids, they just hit a stride at like 18 or 19. That their development just hits like an afterburner. And that was the case with Phil Myers. Like, he was clumsy because he was so tall and he was like lanky, but now he's filled out and gotten control of his body, and it's made all the difference.
Yeah, he's got a great shot too.
Oh, he does, yeah.
I mean,
I think he sees the game well. He's physical. He battles. He's got every element. And he's a really good kid too.
Right. Yeah. And that goal he scored tonight too, that was a beautiful shot. And another goal that I can remember that he scored last season, they were getting absolutely demolished by Washington. And I decided to go to the game with my buddy. We sat like 11 rows up. And it was 5-0 at the time in the second period. And Myers completely rushed into the zone and got his first NHL goal. And it was a beautiful shot. And probably the only thing that I cheered for that night. But it was a really nice shot. But again, like, just like you said, he's a very good defenseman. And I'm really excited to see how he pans out in these next few years.
Oh, no doubt.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree 100% with you right there. And before we go into the break with this podcast, because we haven't even like touched the recap of the Toronto versus Flyers game tonight, but I know, Jason, you can't stay with us the entire time. So for last quick question right here, what do you expect out of tomorrow against Boston? Do you expect the Flyers win, or do you expect it's going to be a little more tough than tonight?
Well, it's going to be a tough spot. What I'm kind of looking for in the game, and you're playing in Boston, back-to-back road games, Boston, so I'm waiting for you. And you just played a good, Toronto team tonight, and you took them to a shootout again, so you didn't do yourself any favors. But that being said, what I'll be looking for, first and foremost, is can Hart sustain? First thing, even before that, can the team in the first 10 minutes not get scored on? That's been an issue for them on the road. Wasn't tonight, but the last couple of years, it starts on the road. And if you can do that and Hart can feel the puck a little bit in the first 10 minutes without giving up a goal, then they have a shot to win the game.
Right.
What I don't want to see is them come out flat because they played tonight and put Hart in a tough spot, because the kid's he's got a foundation he can start building on. to rebuild everything, and it's going to take more. Like he's playing well right now, but you don't want to knock the house of cards down this quickly. So you got to come out tomorrow night and play right. Yeah.
And that was kind of just like the Carolina game too, because he saw the puck a lot early, and that wasn't just like far from the point. That was like really high end chances in front for Carolina, and he stopped all 14 shots of the first period. And then the Flyers only had 5 through the second, and then as I said before, had that great third period. But if they're able to, I think the big thing that I want to see them is get the first goal.
Yeah,
because just like you said, you're on the road. It's a good team. You know they have a very, very good top line. If they're able to get the first goal and maybe sustain, don't take penalties in the first few minutes, and get out of that first period with a lead, I think that can continue through the next 40 minutes of the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, I totally agree. They got to get off to a good start in the game and give themselves a chance right away. Don't get into one of those situations where you just get run out of the building. So, and yeah, staying out of the box is good. Even though the penalty kill's been good, stay out of the box.
Yeah, especially it's not perfect.
Yeah, talk about passes crossing the slot line. Watch watch David Pastrnak. How many times he's sitting on the back door and he just slams it home because it puck crosses the slot line and a great cross ice pass.
Yeah, 9 of his goals this season are on the power play.
Oh yeah, and I guarantee every one of those cross the slot line.
They've all of those goals have been on that side of the ice where Ovechkin usually is.
Yep, blocker side, goalie blocker side. Yep,
right. He's I think a majority of them he's shot low as well, so that might be something that just something to throw out there. It doesn't really.
Yeah. So, thank you, Jason, for joining us here on the Flyed Up podcast. Just thank you for taking your time and joining us here tonight, talking some Flyers hockey.
No problem, boys. Happy to do it.
Yeah. And you can go follow Jason Myrtetus on Twitter at Jason Mert. And also you can go subscribe to his podcast, Stick to Hockey Podcast. It's a really great podcast to listen to. It's on Apple. And yeah, just really good time listening to Jason right here. Good time talking with you. And Chris, any other thoughts going into the break?
That was very good time. Jason, thank you.
Anytime, boys.
It's an honor, especially for you, your first guest on the Flyed Up podcast.
Yeah, very first guest. You have broken the barrier for the Flyed Up podcast.
Well, I hope I didn't fill it full of dynamite and blow up the bridge.
I don't. I think you just made the playing field for a future guest on the show. I think there's another level to get to right now.
Love it.
So thank you once again, Jason, for joining us on this podcast. And when we come back from the break, me and Chris will break down tonight's game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we will pause for a quick moment to hear a word from our sponsor.
Hi, I'm Mark, and I'm one of the hosts of Massive Late Fee. Do you remember Blockbuster? Well, we do, and we racked up a lot of late fees there. That's why we're glad there's things like Netflix, Hulu, and Blockbuster has died, mostly because of us. We cover streaming shows and pretty much whatever we want. Join us every Thursday as we talk TV and movies on Massive Late Fee. You can find us at Massive Late Fee on Twitter, Massive Late Fee on Facebook. You can email the show at massivelatefee@gmail.com, and you can find us at MySpace, Massive Late Fee. Massive Late Fee, the best podcast we can think of.
And welcome back to the Flyed Up podcast. We once again thank Jason so much for joining us on this podcast for today. He is now gone, and it is now me and Chris left to recap this great game tonight against the Flyers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Flyers win this game by a score of 3-2, once again in the shootout, basically a repeat of last Saturday, but instead they don't go to 11 rounds, and the Flyers managed to beat Frederik Andersen in the shootout. So yeah, this was just, I wouldn't say it was the same exact game from last Saturday. The Flyers, I believe, played a lot better. But Toronto did get a lot more of the chances, especially with shots on goal. Brian Elliott was fantastic today. Toronto Maple Leafs, they led the Flyers in shots from a total of 40-32. Brian Elliott, like I said, he played really well. But the Flyers, they were the first ones to open up the scoring. It was Phil Myers from a shot from the point that just goes top shelf right past Frederik Andersen. No one knew it was in the net at first, but the ref signaled it as a goal, and it's a 1-0 Flyers lead, and that's Phil Myers' second goal in as many games since being called up. He had a goal on Thursday against Montreal, and now he has a goal tonight against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So good right there from Phil Myers, and he's looking way better as each game goes on. And Flyers get a power play near the end of this first period. The first unit doesn't really get anything going right there, but it's the second unit. It's Travis Konechny on the right circle. He doesn't shoot the puck, but he passes it over to Oscar Lindblom, who redirects it short side past Frederik Andersen for a 2-0 lead. That is Oscar Lindblom's 8th goal in the season, and he just continues to find the back of the net consistently. Very good right there for Oscar Lindblom. And I would say it's a pretty evenly paced first period. Both teams are getting an equal amount of chances, but the Flyers managed to cash in on one of the power plays in the first period for them to get a 2-0 lead going into the second period. But then it looked same thing for the second period. It looked like the Flyers controlled a little bit more of the pace going in there, but it just felt like there was power plays and stuff to where they should have gotten another lead, but it just felt like that they couldn't put the puck into the net where it mattered. And this is where Toronto started to wake up a little bit. It's halfway into the second period, and there's a little fumble of the puck in the neutral zone, and Toronto picks the puck up. It's Austin Matthews to Nylander, and it turns into a little bit of a 2-on-1 into the Flyer zone. And then Nylander passes it to Travis Dermott, who just buries it past Brian Elliott for his first NHL goal of his career, and to make it a 2-1 Flyers lead, and Toronto just wakes up from here. Toronto, I believe, controlled pace through majority of the second period, but Brian Elliott standing on his head making some fantastic saves during this period to keep the Flyers ahead by 2. But then we go to the third period, it's still 2-1 Flyers. This is early on. It's a great play by Austin Matthews behind the net. He finds a way to get it to William Nylander, who just puts it right by Brian Elliott to tie the game at 2. And I wouldn't say Toronto ran away with the game. I would say it was still pretty even pace. Both teams were getting their share of chances. Third period, there were no penalties for either team, but the Flyers late, they were getting chances. It was Claude Giroux, Travis Konechny. They were getting chances late, and they just couldn't cash it in past Frederik Andersen. I remember Claude Giroux had a chance. I think it was a 2-on-1 or like a little quick breakaway. He just missed it. He couldn't bury it past Frederik Andersen. And once again, against the Toronto Maple Leafs, we go to overtime, and there's just a plethora of chances, a plethora. It's just, you cannot describe how many chances each team got in this overtime. There were so many 2-on-1s for the Flyers, a couple of breaks for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I believe the Flyers had more of the chances, and just no team could cash in. And there was a chance, one of the bigger chances in this period, it was Ivan Provorov that got open in front of the net, and he got Frederik Andersen to go down. He just couldn't bury a top shelf. He missed the net. It was just like, oh my God. And every Flyers fan during this overtime was having an insane heart attack. Because of all the chances that we could have scored on, and we just couldn't. And this is with like 5 seconds left in the overtime. It looks like Travis Konechny is about to get a breakaway with 5 seconds left in the game, but no, the Flyers are slow to change, and they get a too many men on the ice penalty. And the refs, as they stop the clock, they push the time out to 7 seconds left in overtime. So Toronto gets a 4-on-3 power play to finish off overtime, but they can't seal anything away. Nylander almost gets a chance with like 1 second left, but Elliott stonewalls him and just gets it off of his blocker, and it goes out of play. And that's how your overtime ends, with a score tied of 2-2, and we go into the shootout. And the shootout did not go 11 rounds. It went a full 3, and the Flyers managed to win this game in the shootout. Toronto elects to go first. John Tavares stonewalled by Brian Elliott. Same thing with Travis Konechny. He tries to go glove side on Frederik Andersen. He stops it right away. Austin Matthews stopped by Brian Elliott. And as we were talking about with Jase and Myrtetus earlier, Claude Giroux just comes in. He doesn't try to deke Andersen out at all. He just winds up for the slap shot and just buries it. Buries it for a 1-0 Flyers lead in the shootout. And the Flyers have a chance to win it for Brian Elliott to make a stop. And it's William Nylander. And Brian Elliott just barely gets it with his right leg pad, but it just squeaks under him, and the game is tied in the shootout at 1. So we got Sean Couturier coming in to win the game possibly for the Flyers. And he absolutely undresses Freddie Andersen to win the game for the Flyers in the shootout by a score of 3-2. And on an entertainment level, this game, I would say, much better than the Montreal Canadian game, but this game was just flat out. Chances left and right, and both goaltenders looked fantastic today. Freddie Andersen for the Maple Leafs and Brian Elliott for the Flyers. They both looked fantastic. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on this game as a whole?
It was a great game. Back and forth. Goaltending was great, just like Jason brought up with the both for Andersen and Elliott. Flyers played good. Phil Myers continued his little streak. He's got 2 goals in 2 games. I thought he's played very well these last 2 games as well. Elliott, he's played good, very good all season. It's what you need in a backup, consistent goaltending. He's brought it. The team's brought it. We're starting to wake up here. Tomorrow it's going to be a tough test. Do you have any predictions?
I'm going to stay away from the predictions once again because we didn't predict today's game and they won in the shootout. So I'm not going to go with the predictions right now.
Yep, I'm completely agreeing with you. Nope, I'm not saying anything. Just a couple things here. The Phantoms, they won the night, 3-2 in overtime.
Yeah. I think I saw one of the replays on the final goal was it Carey or something, I believe, or was it Walensky?
Walensky.
But it was a nice play by Frost regardless.
Beautiful play by Frost. Completely got away from the guy on the wall, right over to Walensky, and they won the game.
And as the games go on down in Lehigh Valley for Morgan Frost, he just looks better and better. And the more Flyers fans are going to beg for him to be called up to play 4 flying minutes.
Yeah, right. And another thing is about that Phantoms game, Mark Friedman took a pretty bad fall. He went into the corner. He kind of had spaghetti legs and just went out into the corner. It took him a while to get up. They said it took 3 people to get him off the ice. Ooh. So definitely something that the Flyers are going to have to look out at. I'm hoping it wasn't similar to the way Sam Morin kind of went into the corner, which led to him tearing his ACL again. So hoping the best for Friedman. I've always liked him. Just hoping him for the best. And if he's injured, a speedy recovery, but hopefully not.
Yes. And speaking of injuries, during this game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, in the beginning of the second period, it's a bit of a tie with Voracek ties up Mitch Marner on the start of the faceoff, and he falls, and his leg just like bends in a very awkward position, and he goes to the locker room and did not return to this game. So Mitch Marner, I'm not sure if it was like something to do with his ankle or something to do with his leg, but the way it bent, I wouldn't say he broke anything, but he looked like he might have possibly fractured something or maybe tore something, but the way he fell, he couldn't put pressure on his leg going out, and he just looked insanely uncomfortable and in a lot of pain. So look for Mitch Marner possibly in the next day or so to be reevaluated and to see like how bad his injury is right now, because it didn't look good on the ice as from what that happened. So best of luck to Mitch Marner right there. Hopefully it's nothing too drastic, but I don't want to say that kind of helped the Flyers in this game because it took a very dynamic player off the ice for Toronto. But they still did manage to tie the game regardless, so I should be saying anything right there. But hey, the Flyers won this game in a shootout. That is all that matters. And we got a very important game going on against the Boston Bruins tomorrow. It's going to be an insanely tough game, like we said with Jason. Boston has so many dynamic players, especially with that first line. Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, David Pastrnak. And you got Carter Hart in net for the Flyers tomorrow against Yaroslav Halak, who is nothing to laugh at. Yaroslav Halak has been very good since coming to Boston over from the New York Islanders a couple years ago. So, yeah, it's going to be a pretty exciting game tomorrow. Hopefully the Flyers can go to Boston, get a W, get some points here because they have been playing really good hockey as of right now. Flyers are currently 9-5-2, and they have gotten 9 points out of a possible 10 in their past 5 games. So that's a really good stretch of hockey right there. Really, really good stretch of hockey, and they're beating good teams. They are beating teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs, like Montreal, like Carolina. They are going out there against good competition and playing really well. So, without further ado, to wrap up this podcast, really great interview with Jase Myrtetus, just about the Flyers in general. Really good talk with him, and a really good Flyers victory today. So hopefully going in tomorrow against the Boston Bruins, we get to see some really good hockey. Like we said, it all depends on the start. The Flyers have to have a good start tomorrow in Boston. They cannot get thrown out of the building. They just cannot. So, to wrap up this podcast, I'm Amadeo Gracia. He's Chris Mayer, and we will see you in the next podcast as the Flyers take on the Boston Bruins tomorrow. See you in the next podcast, guys.